I think you go through a natural progression in the sport where you want to experience the things you sometimes are only really able to read about.
If you asked me if I was more of a soccer dad or a fly fisherman, and I have to tell you I'm a soccer dad, and that's what I do the majority of the time. But man, I like to get out on these trips.
I went to a CCA auction and a bottle of famous grouse, a little bit too much fun, and I decided to do something that really turned out to be crazy, but one of the greatest adventures of my life. I didn't know where we were going, how it was going to turn out, how we were going to manage even to deal with everything that came with it, but I knew this was going to be an incredible fishing experience.
There's a progression in a fisherman's life, I think, that just happens where you reach new milestones. You want to get a little bit better, have a little bit more adventure. And I really don't consider this a hobby, but it's more of an obsession.
Here's where we're going, to Marsh Harbor.
And as we came out of the clouds and we saw Grand Abaco, it just made your heart skip. It was so clear, so blue, just so beautiful. I'm like, I'm gonna fish here? Amazing experience.
Way to go, Eric!
Dude, you're doing a great job landing. We were kind of approaching the whole trip as let's go do it on our own. Let's explore our capabilities, what we can actually do as fly fishermen.
Wasn't about success, wasn't about going out and counting numbers of fish. It was really about growing. We're eating spaghetti tonight, so I thought it'd be fun to make it by hand. First you grab your pasta, and what you do is you completely mess up your fly line when it comes out of the box. And you end up with some nice pasta.
Abaco seemed to be one of those places that was going to offer a little bit of everything in terms of good for the soul, man. You get out there and you're in the sun, but I think there's a dynamic about this saltwater fishing when you're looking for bonefish and permit. They don't call it silver ghost for no reason.
You've got to be silent, you need to stalk, you need to be smart, you need to be able to not make mistakes. He's got a terrible sense of depth, time.
It's about 15 yards away.
I mean, he kept saying,
man,
oh, you're so close, I think we're going to see him any second. And then next thing I know, it's 30 minutes later I have to turn it over.
It's not 15 yards. Brett Favre couldn't throw it that far. It was that far away.
There's no way.
Yeah, strip, strip, strip. Strip, strip, we're on you. He's on you, yeah! Strip, strip. Oh, yeah! Let him go,
That's gonna drive me nuts.
If you catch 10 more, you're still gonna think about that.
That first one's always gonna be that one, man.
That bonefish took Chris to the bank.
You know, you think about the fish you lost or the opportunities you lost more than what you really gained.
Yeah, do you see that swirl?
You could see the fish, just almost like a bait ball. The fish hits it, boom, takes off. I can definitely see where guys can spend an entire decade or lifetime chasing these fish, because when you do get one, it is just a miracle. More than anything about Abaco, I just really enjoy the destination of any tropical environment.
Oh! 1, 2.
If you're dumb enough like us to where you get a guide for one day and you've never been there before, well, where do we go? That was one of the biggest challenges. I'm not so sure that we got a great shot at a lot of bonefish.
So as the guide is pulling around this really remote area, we were looking for bonefish, but after a couple hours it was apparent there wasn't much back here. But then something did appear, and we see him working around.
There he goes.
We're shark fishing. All of a sudden, I can see maybe about 150 feet off the mangroves. And the guide starts yelling, "Get out of the boat, start running after it." And I look back at him and think, what? I'm not jumping off this boat with my bare feet chasing a shark through the mangroves.
So I'd taken this big peacock bass looking fly. He's on, and this might be one of the funnest fish I've ever caught, because this lemon shark takes off, man. He is headed out to the Atlantic. As he got close, the leader starts to grind on the gunnel, and he pops right off, man.
When you missed, it really was compounded by the fact that it was raining, pouring, and you'd get an hour worth of sun. And then when you have that opportunity, you have to make the most of it. But if I get a chance to go back to the Bahamas, and I will be able to grow, and I'll be a better fisherman from it, and I'll be more successful. But I look forward to what I'm going to learn too.
Now the flip side from Abaco to Manitoba is that in Abaco we went down on our own with no body. The real treat about Manitoba was we were able to go with some good friends of ours, and a larger group of guys went. And so we went from not knowing anything to going with a bunch of guys who know everything.
Manitoba was different. I'd never seen landscape like this before. You know, the lakes, how you got there, you know, being able to get into a float plane and every morning fly to a different location. You're out in the middle of this beautiful remote lake, and again, you're the only one out there perhaps that day. They would open up a lake and you'd be the only one who may have ever fished this area.
The Canadian Grand Slam are the pike, walleye, and grayling, lake trout. It's pretty much the kind of fishing that I really enjoy doing. It's just hunting and a lot of blind casting.
Excitement of fishing is always there, but for me, being able to throw topwaters or something along those lines really, it makes my trip.
He's gonna take it. Got it.
Watch them chase that dalbert come crashing out of the grasses, and all of a sudden that water erupts and it pounds that thing and it tears that dalbert diver up, and pieces of it go flying.
You have a lodge, you have a boat, you have a plane, and you have fish. And you do that and you rinse and repeat.
What really made it absolutely interesting, even terrifying in a way, is as you take off and you start heading south, it was so dry. It's unusually dry.
There were an extraordinary amount of wildfires, but there was this one particular lake, Lake Duffney, that we went to. And when we flew in, it was so cloudy from the smoke.
The pilot opened the door and said, "You guys sure you want me to leave you here?" Now you gotta understand, the lake is literally surrounded by fire. You can't see the sky. It was eerie and it was sad, but at the same time it made the trip that much more interesting. But it'll turn on you like that. I can't tell you how many times that rain came in wicked cold in just an instant.
Every day you get to do a bit of a shore lunch, and you keep a couple, and your guide goes up and cooks up the fish. You take a little bit of a break in the afternoon. Oh, that's done. But what happens is once you get a little bit of a taste of that, you want to experience even more and more. And really reaching out into untapped waters that, you know, I think we were on a couple of lakes that nobody had ever fished on in 3, 4, 5 years, and that's one of the beauties of the area. And we were going up to another lake that was maybe 1.5 miles. We got in the boats, we went and fished all day, and we came back. The funny thing is that about halfway through, this ATV goes dead. Gas is dripping down from the bottom, and driver grabs that hose and he's gonna siphon it out. He comes up with a mouthful of gas, spits it out. So I said, it'd be my recommendation that you not smoke.
The larger, the longer your fly was, the better opportunity you had.
Just read about how blue whales are just so big. Like, they put a picture up of a blue whale, and it might be this big, and then the swimmer's like this big. That would terrify me.